All right, if you have a soccer family like my soccer family, here's what happens after dinner. There's a skills ball, which is a small soccer ball that's in the middle of the living room. And those who so choose go over to the ball and play something called the Meg game. The Meg game is a simple game, a soccer sort of thing, where you just try to kick the ball between the other person's legs, through the wickets, if you will. And in the world of soccer, megging someone is the most disrespectful, insulting thing you can do. So every night after dinner, I take my children over the carpet and I try to insult them deeply through the world of soccer by megging them. And of course, the people try to prevent being megged and they try to meg you. And when you reach to try to stop someone from megging you, they can reverse it around and get you. And it's a lot of fun. Well, last night when we were playing this game, I got a little extra hot and sweaty. And I thought, man, I am really out of shape. And Mrs. Planner said, you certainly are. And then I said, but listen, I'm really, really sweating. And she's like, yeah, you're really, really out of shape. And I said, no, I am really, really sweating. She walked over to the thermostat. It was a ripe 75 degrees. Our air conditioner had gone out during a heat spell. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Pete the Planner show, where we bleed money out of every orifice of our body. Hello, Dame. Hello, Chris.
Good day.
Hello.
Man, Andy joins us on the live stream. Her AC is out today as well. Congrats. So I'm going to meet a technician at my house after the show, and he is going to punch me in the wallet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's not fun. Dame, in pre-show today, Kristen went to take a drink of her beverage. And Kristen, I know this is only visual, not for the podcast listeners, but for the live stream. But let's reenact what happened so that Dame and I can share some joy
with me.
Oh, I feel like, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Dame's going to go. Here we go. Ready?
Ready,
watching. So Dame was drinking out of a Stanley with a straw, and I was making sound effects in the realm of Michael Winslow, the greatest sound effect man in the history of Hollywood. Dame, when you and I were kids, because we are the same age, there was nothing better or cooler than Police Academy, the movie series, and watching Michael Winslow make all sorts of sound effects with his mouth, and you were just blown away.
It was the most unbelievable thing that this, how old do you think we were? 10, 11?
I had to have been in that range.
Never seen or heard anything like it, and you could just watch it over and over and never got old.
Kristen, here's your homework for the day.
Okay.
And ignore all of the work that you have today and do this.
Okay.
YouTube, Michael Winslow. And just watch. Yeah, David knows. Facebook live stream viewer, David knows. Mouth genius is what he called it. Michael Winslow, just watch and freak out. If you are not delighted, Dame, here's what I'm going to do today. I might see my son later. I live with him. I'm going to show him Michael Winslow videos and see if he cares. Can you do the same thing to TD?
Yeah, yes, I will be able to do that probably after lunch. Oh man, now I'm.
No.
Yeah, this might ruin it for both of us, Pete.
It's, you guys, it's going to be like the first time you went back and watched Jaws and you're like, oh, this is that. I feel like it's going to be like that. I feel like you might be disappointed.
It's like watching MacGyver when you're a kid, Dame, or the A-Team, and you're like, what? And then you watch it back and you're just a little less impressed. Still impressive.
Yeah. I'm concerned. This might rip away a part of my childhood that I really enjoy.
So Ted and I have had this ongoing debate over. He enjoys hip hop, and I sort of grew up on it. So we're in this debate. He was saying, like, of course, the stuff I listen to is terrible, and what he listens to is great. I mean, this is the age old debate amongst father and son. And he did say something funny the other day. It was a good day. It was on Ice Cube, just waking up in the morning. And and we're listening to it, clean version. And he was like, just waking up in the morning. What am I supposed to do with that? Like, he's like, what is, there's so much storytelling in what you listen to. And I was like, yeah. What's yours? And he's like, I don't know. Oh, Dame. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a show. I have a surprise during the show, and it is going to be at the top of the second segment. Okay.
Lovely.
It is delightful. But there will be rules. And it may take over the entire second segment. I'm sorry. So we may have to punt something in third. I hope it doesn't. I'm hoping it contains to 4 minutes. It is a surprise. There will be rules. And it will be delightful.
Should we guess what the surprise is?
I have anxiety.
I think
the surprise is Kristen has anxiety. That's the surprise.
That's not a surprise.
No. It's going to be Pete's getting a new co-host and relieving Kristen and I of our duties.
No.
Oh,
No. Do you have any real guesses?
No, I have
no idea.
Literally have no idea.
That's the way the show works, y'all. Okay. Being without air conditioning reminds me of like this directive I gave to myself as to why I wanted to go to college and have a reasonable living, because I value really two things in life. And Dame, I think I have shared this with you in the past. I value blazing cool air conditioning and 2-ply toilet paper. That's all I've ever really wanted in my life. And when one of those things is ripped from my grubby Midwestern hand, I get sweaty.
Was there ever a point in your life where you didn't have central air conditioning?
No, what? I wasn't born in the 1800s. No.
Just curious.
I know lots of people who don't have central air.
Well, I didn't get it until high school.
Yeah, that's what I said. I have certain aspirations, and I've met them so far until this very day. We didn't even tell my daughter that the air went out because it was a little hot. It wasn't crazy hot. It was a little hot. But had we told her it was out, she would have lost her mind and not slept.
Yeah, you're straight to social media, human rights violation.
Yeah,
going on at.
No air conditioning in Carmel, Indiana is basically, you can get arrested for that.
That's probably against HOA.
I mean, the HOA is going to be on me again. You know what? Rick Swink reminds me. He says, I had no AC in college for the first few years after. I didn't have AC for 4 years in college. So I guess 4 years in college. It was hot. Those August and September nights in Southern Indiana. Oh, it was awful. It smelled like tobacco because there was a ton of tobacco fields around, which actually kind of smelled good, but hot tobacco when you're trying to sleep, not so much. This is delightful. Okay. Dame, that was really underhanded. I just want you to know I don't appreciate that.
It's okay. I'm sure there'll be plenty more things that you don't appreciate today.
I'm reading a book called Radical Candor right now. And so, Dame, that I did not appreciate that.
I will, for those longtime listeners, I will admit that Pete has a physical book of this, not an audio book, where he says he's reading something, he's really listening to it. No, he's actually reading this one. I'm quite impressed.
I have gone to this very weird spot is to not only have I crossed over into physical books, but now, like some sort of moron, Kristen, I get the physical book and the audio book.
I love that.
I don't know. I could be inefficient. Could be too expensive.
No, Dave and I were just talking about that. Really, the way to go is read it digitally on like a Kindle so that you can highlight your notes and then send them to you as just like one file. But when you listen and read as well, I just think that you absorb the information better. I don't have any evidence to back that up. I just feel like it's true.
David, making another note here on the live stream. Americans are getting soft. Read Comfort Crisis. Sounds like an interesting book, but here's the thing, David. I am soft. I am physically soft. Someone, a coworker bumped into me the other day, almost lost their arm. Like just like into the ether of gutness.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a show. I don't know. Whatever. I have to go home and meet the air conditioner guy so he can take away the college fund for my kids.
You'll become a little less soft in the wallet area.
Oh.
I tried.
Well, no, I just that was just payback.
Mm.
3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You can email us. That's how we communicate. Electronic mail. Here's the email address. I'm going to give it to you. I'm just kidding. Ask Pete at PeteThePlanner.com. Ask Pete at PeteThePlanner.com, and we'll answer your question on the air. I'm not going to email you back. Like, I'm literally will not email you back. I don't want to email you back. With that, Damian Dunn, Kristen Elanius join me, co-hosts of this here program in which I just yelled at the audience. Hello, everybody.
It's a great start. I'm really anticipated the numbers that we get on this week's show.
Look, I don't like throwing anyone under the bus here, but I was listening to the radio the other day, and a personality, someone I know, was reading an ad, a commercial, and they read www. And I'm like, why? Who? No, why? Who needs to hear that? Is it meant to make you? Oh, here comes a web address. Is that the idea? Because there's no other reason to do it.
Maybe. But unless he wrote it, I mean, he or she are just reading what's put in front of them. They probably don't have the leeway to do it. They've got to hit their time, and those www may take up that exact amount of time they need to hit the mark.
That's my thought too, but I will say this is that having written ad copy and read ad copy, you're usually trying to tighten it, not lengthen it.
That's true.
So because of like at www.petetheplanner.com as opposed to so just go to petetheplanner.com. I mean, you're cutting 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, but you said go to instead of at, and so you're really just.
So I sent you guys a Slack earlier this week that begged the following question: with the incredible real estate market over the last several years, there are, I don't know, millions of paper real estate millionaires out there that their net worth has creeped above $1 million, but it's highly illiquid. It's because of the increased equity of their home that pushed them over that $1 million mark. So you've got a bunch of people walking around who both maybe feel and act like a millionaire, but don't actually have the liquidity to deliver on whatever that means to them. And the question to you all was, is this a problem? Is there going to be some sort of repercussion to this idea that there are so many more millionaires right now than there were 3 years ago based on real estate alone? So I begin with Kristen. Kristen, does any of that make sense? Is the premise faulty? What say you?
It totally, no surprise, it totally depends on the person, because I think there's a really big pro and I think there's a potential pretty significant con. I would say, and I've said this on the show before, that sometimes someone being like house poor or having a large portion of their income wrapped up in their home or their net worth is the thing that helps bridge the gap from their active working years to retirement if they haven't adequately prepared. But on the opposite side of that, I think a huge con is that it may be, especially in a current rising interest rate environment, when interest rates come back down, I think it lends itself for people to use their home as like a savings account. And I don't love that.
Dame?
I think so little about the equity in my house that I don't think it would change my behavior in one leg. I mean, I could look at my retirement accounts and it's roughly the same thing. Thankfully, I'm in a position where I don't need that money, but it doesn't change the way I behave in my day-to-day finances a bit. It just is there. It is something, and hopefully it's there when I'm ready to retire. I think Kristen is right, though. I think what this potentially does, especially in conjunction with interest rates and the fact that fewer houses are selling now than in a long time. I think this might be the rise of the reverse mortgage for a lot of people.
Ooh. Oh my gosh, what just happened? Can you warn me? Like, I'm just sitting here not listening to you, and then all of a sudden you said the R word.
Yeah, I did.
What? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Did the whole show just change today?
They don't.
Your surprise?
They don't want to sell. because they don't want to get into a new mortgage somewhere else. They like where they're at, but they've got a ton of equity tied up in their house, and they might need a little bit of extra help in retirement. And they, what are they going to do with it? Reverse mortgage.
I'm flabbergasted. Kristen, say something.
Well, now hold on. I'm curious about, Pete, your perspective on the very first thing that Dame said, because that's what pushed me, like knocked me out of my chair first, was that he was like, I don't think about the equity in my home. I think that he's a minority. I don't think that other people feel that way. I think most people are looking at their home's value consistently.
Dame, the equity in my home, or pardon me, the value of my home has gone up 40% in the last 3 years.
Okay.
So to not look at the equity in your home, I pay my mortgage in person. I paid it on Saturday. I have gotten to a threshold of being at a certain point of which I owe. I think about the equity in my home all the time. Now, maybe to Dame's point, I don't think about spending it. I don't think about, I just love the fact that I owe less money, but it's a revert. You think this will lead to, so like soon, or are you saying like when we're the olds, like what's going to happen here?
I think in the next few years, unless this housing gets sorted out, builders, I've got a news story for the last segment. New construction is just booming because houses aren't selling. People aren't moving out of their houses because they don't want to get rid of the mortgage they've got that's locked in at ridiculous rates. And so if they're not going to sell and they're going to run the clock out on their mortgage, maybe they just say, you know what, I like it. I've done everything I want. I've remodeled it. Let's get some of this equity back out. Let's look at a reverse mortgage.
Kristen, at what point, this is a completely different question that takes us completely off there. At what point in time do mortgages or houses, I should say, become so expensive that people are priced out of the market and it just, all of that equity goes away because the market falls?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I feel like we have made strides to be there. A few weeks ago, you and I talked about, I can't remember the median home price. It was like, I want to say it was like 4.25 or something. And when we look at that in relation to median wages, we get closer to that point all the time. I don't know when that tipping point occurs, obviously, but we're closer.
Dame, I'm stunned. Can I get a little clarification?
Sure.
Do you think not only will, you're saying reverse mortgages will become more popular? Are you saying that will be a prudent thing to do?
No, I don't. Well,
no way.
Well,
come on. No.
As you and I have said a bunch of different times, most financial products have a good use for the right scenario. It's when we start to see people shoehorned into other things that they're told is a good use. There are scenarios where reverse mortgages make sense, and I think that may widen up a little bit for some people, especially if they don't have all of the savings they should have had, but they do have a ton of equity in their house. I think that might be a really easy way for them to go, especially if we have markets that go up and down and have a ton of volatility in them going forward.
Kristen, in full transparency, Dame and I worked on something earlier in the spring, a case we were both looking at, in which he and I talked about a reverse mortgage might actually end up being the solution. So, Dame, I mean, what is happening?
I don't know. Have to keep an eye on it.
Did not expect it to go that way. Anyway, so I guess we have zero conclusion to this other than to say there are a lot more millionaires than there were 3 years ago because of home equity and house prices. And there could be an impact of which reverse mortgages are going to become a thing. Coming up after the break, I surprised my co-hosts. That's next, right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I don't know if it's any bigger surprise than what we just all were a part of.
There you go.
Holy cow.
I know how you like hot takes.
It kind of makes sense.
I know you couldn't say that on the radio, but
no.
To our listeners,
no.
That's the all the acknowledgement I need that I was kind of right.
You guys ready for the surprise?
Yes,
No.
that's why I wanted to get through that segment so bad.
I'm not telling you before the segment starts.
I'm sure.
Okay.
That would ruin it.
Okay.
You've got to have the pop on air.
All right, Kristen, for the second part of the segment, the question or situation you want to go through, just be ready, because I don't know at what point we offboard onto that.
Okay.
And I'll just give you the full surprise on air, because here we look. You guys ready?
You're dragging it out, man.
That's the point of a tease, Dame. It is still radio. That's www.damesreversemortgageshop.com. That's www.http://www.damesreversemortgage.com.
HTTPS.
HTTPS. Do you remember when you
my.
first got the internet? Kristen, this isn't a topic for you. It's for me and Michael Winslow. Dave, do you remember when you first dialed up? And you put
Michael Winslow. There we go. That was perfect opportunity.
www. You would type www every time.
Every time.
Kristen,
I had dial-up internet.
did you type www every time?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I might not have had to, but I certainly did. 'Cause
Old
I
woman.
lived out in the middle of nowhere, so we didn't even have internet. And then when we got it, it was dial-up, and other people already had like kind of fast internet. It wasn't fun.
DSL.
Do you think as Kristen gets older, she'll trade her dogs for cats?
No. No, she'll just
That's
shrink
the
the size
worst
of the
thing you've
dogs.
ever said to me.
Really? I feel like I've said a lot of terrible things.
That was up
Like,
there.
look, are your dogs in the room with you right now?
Yeah, of course.
Look them in the eye right now. Be like, I'm someday
No.
going to trade you for a cat.
No.
Can they
I
hear
would
me?
not.
Do you have earbuds in?
I have yeah, they can't hear you.
You're getting traded for cats.
They don't believe you.
Okay. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. Dame Kristen. It was Wednesday this week in our office here at Indianapolis, Indiana. I went and got the mail. And by got the mail, I went at the front desk, the reception desk of our office, and I received a handwritten letter.
Oh.
What?
On graph paper.
Excellent.
Telling me how wrong we were about a segment last week.
Oh.
Yeah. So here's some ground rules for what we're about to do together. Number one, I will never make fun of someone disagreeing with me. Okay. I feel like it is just not how I want to live my life. So this person has a different opinion. So we will not make fun of this person. We will not discredit them. We can disagree with their ideas. Are those good ground rules?
Fair enough.
Okay,
Yeah.
we don't have to flame the person if we disagree with their ideas. Number two, if a handwritten letter is going to come in disagreeing with you, it is gonna come in on graph paper. Like, Greg, like I know what I'm dealing with here. Like I know what's about to happen. The return address label simply said, a listener.
Okay.
Pete the Planner. Then it has our address, including the zip code extension.
Wow.
Regarding Sunday, 16 July show, WIBC, question on rolling prior employer's 401k balance into new employer's 401k plan. Dear Pete and team, I suggest it is almost never the right move to roll over into a new employer's 401k plan, no matter how much they urge you to do so. Number one, you lose control of the investment choices. You get what their HR department picks. The new employer can change offerings and fees, including administrators, whenever they wish. I will point out, listener, we talked about that on the show. Did we not, Dave?
We may not have gone quite to that detail that the providers could change, but investment choices do change. 100% right on all of this so far. I have no problems.
Number two, you are stuck in that 401k until you leave that job. You cannot move the money back out, to the best of my knowledge, as a user and non-financial advisor type. That is both true and not true and arguably irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. Number three, you lose your privacy. I have to say, I've never considered this. You lose your privacy. The new company's HR people can see that transfer in of your money, and that can be significant risk to you, the employee. Okay, so that is interesting because what they're saying, Dame, is when your 401k administrator at your employer checks on what's going on in 401ks, they're going to see a deposit in, and that could negatively impact your employment.
I'm not sure how, because they have access to everything in theory, payroll records, everything. I don't see how seeing them being able to see a deposit into a 401k has any bigger influence on employment than anything else.
Kristen, do you think it's because they think if there's like layoffs or something, or they're like, oh, well, they don't even need the money because they've got so much money? Do you think that's the argument?
I think that is probably the argument. And it could also, I mean, I also understand the privacy thing, not wanting someone that you work with to know how much you have or haven't saved for retirement.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll say this. I appreciate the letter, listener. Thank you for sending it. I had literally considered every point. I feel like we at least touched on those points. Other than the privacy thing is interesting. I appreciate that perspective. But then, like, the lead line is where I lose you, listener. First off, thank you for not sending me anthrax. I had sort of the lowest member of our team open the letter with me around the corner through the glass. I suggested or she, but it's a man's writing. I suggested is almost never. But here's the thing about what we do for a living. It doesn't work that way. Because sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. In fact, there are such large 401k plans that have such lower fees that you can get anywhere on the street that it makes a ton of sense to be in the 401k of your employer. That last point withheld. So anyway, typically you can ask Pete at PeteThePunter.com, but if you want to go to the yellow pages and look up our business address and not send me anthrax, have at it. So thank you, listener. We appreciate you very much.
Depending on the plan, you may get access to funds that are closed to you as a retail investor. So that cuts both ways. And there are some amazing funds, at least there used to be. It's been a long time since I've looked at some of the closed funds that are available in various 401ks that you would love to be able to use.
Dodge and Cox had a series of closed funds that were only within retirement plans. To your point, Dame. And Danza on the live stream says she's picturing the letter is in all caps, and I will let you know there is several capital letters on that email. But again, we're not making fun. Appreciate it. Kristen, you had a situation you wanted to share.
Yes, I did. So I had someone come to me with a question about what they should do with I would say, moderate sum of money.
How much?
Well, that's not fair. We'll just call it $5,000.
Okay, so could they pay for my new air conditioner that I've got to have installed later today? There it is.
No.
And that's the site. So go to www.petesac.com.
No. So this person was trying to decide technically between three options. The first was to just leave the money in savings, which is what it was already doing. The second was to make a principal payment on their mortgage. Their mortgage interest rate is 7. I told is 7. Or their loan to value ratio is pretty high because they just bought a house. Or they could pay off their car, and that interest rate was like 3.8.
What's their car payment?
$333.
This is a no-brainer.
Oh?
Well, if I can ask one more question.
Okay.
That $5,000, how does it relate to 3 months worth of expenses? Is it in excess? Is it part of, or does it not even reach?
I would say that this person would be fine to get rid of the $5,000.
Pay off the car. Dame.
I hate agreeing with you, but it's pay off the car.
It's a no-brainer. This is the easiest personal finance question we've ever had on this show, ever.
Well, this person will be glad to know that they did the arguably right thing.
Oh, okay, wait. Kristen, I am sensing that you disagree.
No. In fact, I think what's hard for this person is they're a math brain, and it's really hard to say, if I have the cash flow available to meet all of my obligations, why would I not make a bigger payment on my house? And because that's where I save the most money. That's where I think that the internal conflict between looking at it on a spreadsheet and what I could save, and the elimination of that monthly payment, and what I would argue to be more of like a feeling versus math, is where people sometimes get tripped up in situations like that.
What is she going to do with the freed up cash flow?
Probably spend it on something silly.
Okay, well, that's where it gets dumb,
Yeah.
right?
But she has no other debt. Like, what else? Like, she saves for retirement. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of qualms about that, though.
Save it for another down payment for a new car whenever that comes around. Put it towards the mortgage that she cares so much about getting rid of at 7%. I mean, there's a number
No.
of things that you can do with that money that you just saved every month.
All right, now I have a personal finance question that I want to ask. Can I do it in the next segment? I'm blowing up all your segments today, Kristen.
It's all right.
That's fine.
Okay, I have a question from a friend
Mm.
that I want to get out there. It's me, but as I'm thinking, if I tell the story, I'm on the fence as to what to do, honestly. And I don't want to. It's like you don't want to disclose too many details, but you do enough to get the answer, but not enough that people send me firmly worded emails saying the answer.
Just get the air conditioner, Pete. It'll
It's
be
not
okay.
that. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. Coming up after the break, I'm going to ask a question to my co-hosts and hope that listeners don't start hating me more. That's next, right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. All right. I really am. Dame, I don't know if is it a car? It's a car situation. Have I talked to you about it yet?
Nope.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, man.
Wait, your oldest isn't old enough to start.
No, it's not that
Okay.
one.
The
But
two
that,
of
I mean,
you are gonna
that'll be, the
agree.
show will be over by then, but whatever.
My prediction is I'm going to feel one way, and the two of you are going to feel a different way.
I actually feel, I think we're not going to be aligned.
Yeah.
Oh, man. There's just one element of the story I've got to like
choose to
obfuscate.
disclose, or
Yeah, well, I'm gonna. It's just like it's an important detail. I just got to frame it the right way.
What do I do with my $3.4 million Ferrari?
Ask Pete. at
Did I did talk to you. I
PetePlanner.com.
did talk to you about this.
Oh yeah, was that one? Oh,
Okay. Oh boy, I'm just gonna have to rip the Band-Aid off as part of it. But it's a. I don't even know what to do. Oh boy, you know what? This is gonna help people, so I'm just gonna do as much as I can here. That's the way
Sure.
you got to view it.
you're a man of the people until you tell this story, and then you won't be.
Like the iTunes podcast review here is going to be terrible.
You're out of touch.
I don't know. Okay. It reminds me of a question we answered a few months, if not a few weeks ago on the show, where someone was what?
A few months, maybe it was a few weeks ago.
For someone
No
who loves
one
time
knows.
as much as I do, looking backwards into time, I'm a mess. I have no idea. Could have been 7 years ago. Dame, did you ever see a picture of like things pop up on your phone or whatever, social media, that it's you parenting your kids when they were really small and cute, and you're looking at kids, then you look at yourself, you're like, oh my God, I look terrible now. Like I've aged so much. I had one of those this week and I was like, I look like I've been in an industrial accident.
Yeah,
Like at this point in my life, like what happened? I was like reasonably okay.
just had that. There was a picture of our family at a wedding, standing there all dressed and cleaned up, and man, time and gravity are just absolute
Okay,
destroyers.
Dame, Kristen, we're not going to ask you this question. You can choose to answer it if you want, but I'm not going to ask you the question. But I'm going to ask Dame. Dame, I want you to envision a time in which you felt you were the best looking that you ever were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have it pictured?
Yep.
Circa what?
2000.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, aesthetically, what would you have given yourself at that time?
Neck down, I would say I was 8.5, 9.
God, thank God he didn't say waist down. That could have gotten really awkward. Just really awkward. 8.5 to 9, waist down. I want
neck
pigs.
down.
Wait, neck down. Sorry. Whatever. It's all the same. Okay. But then like face and everything else, like you're the whole package here. I mean, so to speak.
I mean, you're asking for me to rate my own.
Yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm doing.
I above average. The face brings it down significantly. We'll say 6.5.
Okay. And then where are you now?
3.
Okay. So here's where I'm at. I'm thinking for me, I'm going to go like 98, 99.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I will go 7.5, maybe 8. I'll maybe go 8. Nice looking red hair. It's pretty good shape. Stone cold 4, 3.5 to 4 now. Right. That fall off is just a nightmare.
Oh, but I would argue it doesn't. No, we're not going to get there. Sorry. No.
I would argue I both am cognizant of that and maybe don't care that much.
Yes.
Other than I'm talking about it.
Yeah, right? That's where I was going to go. Was the number goes down, but the percentage of not caring goes up.
Danza points out that this next segment sounds like it'd become better coming from my courtyard if I was doing a remote show. I almost did a remote show today, but then I realized that I've got no air conditioning and I didn't want to melt.
Ew.
Okay. Oh man, this is gonna suck. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. Kristen, I have a personal finance question that's so personal. It's actually my question. I was hoping you two could help me with it. So we had a couple rules to start the last segment, and so I'm gonna just ask to follow a couple rules here. Okay. Everyone's situation and the difficulty and the challenge is relative to their own financial life.
True. I
am not comparing my financial life to anyone else. I'm just like, this is a challenge. This is a decision I have to make that is in front of me. And it's very real. And it is stressful, actually. And it has been for a little while. Okay, so here's the story. We absolutely need a new to us car. Absolutely. 100%, no question. And we need so because we will be doing a lot of driving this fall, and it is not practical to put those miles on our other car for other reasons. Again, I can't give you all the details. I'm just going to give as much as I can. As you would hope, we have a proper emergency fund. And beyond that, we don't keep a lot of extra money in our emergency fund. Those are investments. Okay. And they're investments that we don't really want to liquidate, right? Because they are longer term investments. Dame, I have a chunk of money coming my way, not related to work and employment, not related to the ownership of this business, but just it's a thing. I can't really get into it, but it would very easily pay cash for a new car. Okay. Let's say $30,000 new car. Okay. For whatever. It doesn't really matter. That part doesn't matter. I need to get the car before the money is here. I have to. There's just no way about it. So I also don't want to tap my emergency fund. So the question is, what combination of payment options do I use to acquire the vehicle while the money comes in, which could be anywhere from 6 months to 11 months from now? My current thought is I put a little bit of down payment down, get as low of interest rate as I can, and just use the savings account to make monthly payments on it. and then just replenish the savings account when the funds come in. So I will hang up and listen. Actually, I won't hang up, but I'll listen. What do you guys think?
Dame?
Ask whatever you can ask, whatever you want to ask.
First and foremost, this seems almost borderline rude to ask, but you aren't speculating on these funds. You know this is coming in because
great question. And you know what, great question. And it's not rude, because at some point in time it was speculative that it whether it was or wasn't and how much and all that. So like that was a thing that I've already gotten past.
Okay.
So that's why I'm now to the point of needing to do something about it, because up until knowing it's happening, that's too much of a risk.
Okay. Could I ask you another question?
Ask me whatever.
If that money wasn't coming in, how would you do this?
I don't know. I actually have thought about that. I would probably liquidate an investment. Maybe. I don't know. I don't like the idea of having an emergency fund that low. I just, that's probably what I do. The cash flow doesn't support having a payment because I allocate all my money out to certain areas. Right. So good questions.
Okay.
That I've asked myself, which makes me feel good that I've actually asked both of those questions to myself. Chris, do you have any questions before he goes? Any other good questions?
I don't think I have any other questions, because I don't think that other details would change where I'm leaning.
Okay, Dan.
So you said something really interesting before you tried to throw it to Chris, or you did throw it to Kristen. Your monthly cash flow doesn't support a car payment right now, and that's because you're aggressively funding other stuff.
Absolutely.
At this point. It's not because you're strapped or it's because you have goals, you've got them funded. If you could pull back on one of those goals for 6 to 11 months, would that seriously hamper your overall goal achievement and use that cash flow to fund the new car payment?
I don't want to do that. I would much rather have the car payment funded out of the savings account.
And would I understand. And at this point, I'm just trying to shoot holes and look at other options. Would 6 to 11 months of car payment coming out of your emergency fund significantly impair it?
No, not at all.
Okay. So, Kristen, I don't know if you feel the same way. I would say, okay, go with the savings fund. But I think you're commingling funds, which kind of goes towards a next dollar type of approach. But I think you're commingling funds that are in that emergency fund that you could set aside and say, this is legit emergency fund. And then you can cordon off another set of funds that are, call it what you want, opportunity fund, sinking down payment for something else in the future. But you have some flexibility with those funds. The emergency fund is that strictly emergencies. And I'm not sure this quite rises to the level of an emergency. I think it's bad timing. I think it's unfortunate, but it's not an emergency. So I would suggest maybe going back and looking at your emergency fund and figuring out exactly what that money is for and what you want to sit there, and then maybe being a little bit more strategic with some of that other cash.
Kristen?
I think what I would suggest in this situation is to disrupt life in the next 12 months the least amount possible. And I would say you put the least amount down, you sign for the longest loan that they'll give you at a reasonable interest rate, because I could be wrong, but I would doubt there's going to be very much difference in that interest rate from anything from 3 to 6 years or more. You finance the least amount possible, you pay the monthly payment out of the emergency savings, you replenish it. And then to Dame's point, if there are opportunities for something like this to happen again, I would love for there to be like an intermediate account that addresses things like this so that you don't have to disrupt your month to month.
That's fair. Yeah, I have definitely thought about getting a 72-month loan because it just takes the burden of the payment down. And then I've done some math that I think worst case scenario, there's the air quotes. I think worst case scenario, every different way I've looked at this, it could cost me about $1,800 in interest. And that's a weird worst case, the way I've calculated it. And so this act of arbitrage is going to cost me about $1,800. But it's still stressful because I don't like the idea of wiping out an emergency fund. I don't want to have a car payment. And once the money comes in, I can fix that. I don't know. It's a weird one though, right?
How many people do you think are screaming HELOC at their radio right now?
I've thought of that too. But the interest rate's so much higher than a car loan. Here's the other aspect, and this is where, Dame, you can mock me even more. We have no idea what kind of car we want. We have no idea, don't care, other than it's probably a midsize SUV. So there are so many deals out there actually they're starting to happen, like 1.9%. And it's like, let's do that. I mean, why make it more complicated than that?
Can we go car shopping together?
How would that go?
It would be a nightmare.
Like, Dame, the speed at which I make decisions. Quite quickly.
It would be so bad.
Jarringly quickly.
This isn't going to be your primary driver, though, is it?
No, but the thing is, based on how our family's fall is going to go and this and that, like I will be driving it a lot on the weekend.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
See, everyone's got personal finance challenges.
Everyone.
Kristen, with 20 seconds left, do you think did I alienate myself with any listeners there, or was it at least somewhat down to earth?
I hope not, because I hope people realize that you can apply those principles to other situations and other levels of income.
It is stressful. And that's the thing. I shouldn't have to martyr my financial decision making because some people have it worse. We can acknowledge both at the same time. So with that, we go to break. Coming up after the break, biggest waste of money of the week in the news. I'm Pete the Planner.
Think about the other side of that coin. If you would have came on and said, you know what, I can't afford my new car. I need a new one. How am I going to get through this? I'm going to have to go do something sketchy. Then you lose all your credibility. Someone would expect you to be in this position.
No, but I mean, let's be honest here. If you ask a question of, hey, if this money wasn't coming in, what would you do? And I don't have a great answer other than take money out of investments, which is, I guess that is the second tier of my emergency fund. So maybe it's the same thing, but like, I don't have a plan I love. I don't have a car fund, right? I don't love it.
Yeah, that's your choice. You could, but if you wanted to leave the investments in place and potentially rearrange some of your goals and pull some monthly cash flow out of that, you could, but you've prioritized the importance of those goals to the point where you'd rather go a different route, leave investments in place, leave the goal funding in place, and try and find something else that is minimally disruptive to the rest of your financial life.
Jason notes that he's working on his handwritten letter right now.
I love our Facebook viewers.
I think we may have said this a few weeks ago, maybe, or a month or a couple years. Jason's funny, right?
Yeah.
Do you know Jason?
No.
Kristen, is he in your life?
I don't know Jason.
He's funny.
David also said reverse mortgage.
David's been on fire today. Danza said mechanical pencil at the ready. I really, I appreciate this person's letter. I really do. And it says, best regards, a listener. I don't know. Here's the graph paper. Oh, you can't really see it, especially if your podcast.
I also think their point one is kind of interesting. You lose control. I'm not sure what control you had in the beginning. I can't let that one go either.
No, I see his point. I think we did say on the show, Damon, maybe this was what I was trying to get at. The only reason you would roll an account into your current 401k is if there were good investment choices of which you felt that you were okay with giving up that control. So like, and then the fees thing, like if you have a large employer plan with low fees, they're never going to go to higher fees. They're always going to go to lower. That's the nature of the retirement plan business.
I mean, there's another reason. I mean, it's a very, very small one. 401ks are ERISA protected accounts. So if you're being sued for some ridiculous amount of money, keep your 401k in the 401k because it's shielded from any creditors at that point.
You are stuck in the 401k until you leave that job. You cannot move the money back out. I mean, that is for the most part true.
Sure.
And then, so is the argument there is if you really got in trouble, you couldn't access it for trouble, like to solve the problem?
I guess.
mean, it's true. I mean, you could always do a hardship withdrawal, potentially. You could do a loan, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you want to buy an annuity with that 401k money and you want to take it out while you're still working. I don't know.
Okay. Well, again, I don't always have to be right.
Yeah.
And I'm wrong a lot. Now David wants to my home address so he can hand deliver complaints. Oh Lord. Okay.
I see envelopes being taped to the door of the office very soon.
Was it a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago when I was like, man, we had a bad show? Do you guys remember we got done? I was like, God, that sucked. What was it? This is
our 500th show.
Well, that one, and I think we had one after that.
It was like 501 or 2 because we were making the joke that we didn't think it was going to end quite that quickly after all the jokes you made on the 500. I think it was 502.
Yeah. This is much better show today.
Yes.
And then last week I got in too early, and then my caffeine peaked at the wrong time. Remember, people were calling for Miguel. A 98 thesis reference from David. That's lovely. Okay, let's go. Let's do a show. I gotta pull up my stuff here.
Continue the show.
Whatever. All right. Here we go. In 3, 2. Hold on. Sorry. 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week, right here on the Pete the Planner Show, is the Alfred Dunhill Case of Delights. To celebrate the 130-year legacy of Alfred Dunhill, the British luxury goods brand released the Case of Delights. The sleek attaché. That is time out. Can I get time out, Dave?
Yes.
How fun is it to say attaché?
I mean, it sounds almost like a spy novelish.
Say it. Say attaché.
Attaché.
Was that fun?
Yes.
Kristen?
Attaché.
Are you delighted?
Yes.
Continuing on. The sleek attaché case pays homage to the house founder's harness-making heritage with an English bridal leather construction in Italian hardware. Its interior is filled with a bounty of gentlemanly necessities. The curated items include galvanized lighter, a black shell briar pipe, stainless steel tamper, a cigar cutter, and a handmade leather cigar case. To accompany the smoking accessories is a pair of handmade smoked gray shot glasses and a hip flask for your spirit of choice. First off, that sounds like a good time. All right. Okay. So, Kristen, for this Case of Delights, the sleek attaché that allows you to smoke and drink like any country bar in America, what do you think it costs?
First of all, I feel like if this had a flashlight included, that this would be something that Dame would actually have in his office. Second, I feel as though it is $399.
Dame?
Lovely.
Kristen.
What?
I would have thought you've picked up on this. You take like what you think it actually costs, multiply it by at least 10, and you're probably in the ballpark. This is a $4,200.
The answer is $32,000 American dollars. $32,000.
That logic doesn't work because I did that with the flamethrower dog and I was way, way off base.
Oh my gosh.
I hate this segment.
I think you say you hate us, which also seems warranted.
That's fair.
Dame, what's in the news this week?
This summer has been a bloodbath for the U.S. entertainment industry in the world's second largest market, cementing a years-long gravitation among Chinese consumers towards movies made at home. Total box office sales for U.S. films in China hit $592 million in the first half of the year, down from $1.9 billion grossed in the same time period in 2019. The year before COVID restrictions crippled moviegoing, obviously. The shifting tastes of 1.4 billion people in China have considerable ramifications for Hollywood studios and for Chinese leaders who use the multiplex for propagandistic films. Pete, as if the writer's strike and the actors' strike in conjunction wasn't hard enough for Hollywood, they're losing some significant revenue from overseas.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like half the Mission Impossible movies that have come out recently were all funded by Chinese studios. Am I making that up?
I think a lot of movies are at least co-funded by Chinese studios, but I don't know specifically about Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I feel like I'm totally making this up, but I feel like Tom Cruise has like a conduit to the Chinese filmmaking industry for some reason.
It's probably through Scientology.
Possibly. Kristen, thoughts on the Chinese movie studios eating up the profits of American studios?
I don't know anything about any movie studios. I don't watch movies, gentlemen.
I still have not seen the new Indiana Jones, and I
Nope.
have not seen the Mission Impossible yet, but I'd like to see both.
Are you doing Barbenheimer?
No, 'cause I just don't go to movies, but I have a cross-country flight coming up, and I'm hoping one of these new releases is somehow on that flight, but I'm not holding my breath. There's actually that Jennifer Lawrence rom-com, sort of raunchy comedy that's out that I'm hoping is also on the flight.
Sorry, I always think about your story of a freeze frame when you're. Yeah, we won't get into it because it involves
Pilot Jeremy. Where's Pilot Jeremy?
Seriously, we needed Pilot Jeremy in here because I actually had a pilot story in here. I will get to it after this next story, which is this week's feel-good legislation that's sure to go nowhere.
Stock pick. They cannot do it anymore, right?
You got it. 2 senators are set to introduce legislation to bar executive branch members and lawmakers from owning stock in individual companies and even blind trusts. The bills from Senators Kirsten Gillibrand and Josh Hawley would still allow the president, vice president, members of Congress, Capitol Hill aides, and employees of the executive branch to own mutual funds and index funds, as polling shows broad support for such ban. The legislation comes after a Wall Street Journal investigation, which found that many top executive branch employees own stocks in companies their agencies regulate. Again, it's nice to see. It placates the people. It will go nowhere.
I have a really hot take.
Yes.
Hotter than your reverse
mortgage? Yeah.
Doubtful.
What if? No, I'm just saying, what if there was when you went into Congress, your money got set in a fixed account that paid the equivalent return of the S&P 500, but it wasn't necessarily a variable. Could be a fixed 8%, whatever. But because even with an index fund, they're so heavily weighted sometimes that if you had the right inside information, you just go to that. S&P 500 is a perfect example.
Yep.
So what if you just you go to Congress, you set your money aside, you're guaranteed 8% rate of return, but then you also have term limits. I think I'm reworking the entire government is what I've just done. But that's not a terrible idea.
I don't know, guaranteeing 8%. Who wouldn't sign? I mean, that's another conversation all in itself. You and I will both sign up for 8% guaranteed for the rest of our lives. All day.
Kristen wouldn't because she's a young.
No.
That's unrealistic investment standards.
Exactly.
I've
only lived through bull markets. So.
What is the guaranteed rate of return you would accept for the rest of your life, Kristen?
Good question.
Oh, so I had to sacrifice. I would say it would have to be double digits.
8% all day.
Yeah.
Give it to me right now. Man, that is a generational difference.
Did you ever see a retirement plan modeled or projected with double-digit returns?
Of course. The software I used to use, it let you go up to 12, and it was just the dumbest thing in the world, right? It was just it was so unreal. well, now this is sort of creeping into another territory within personal finance of constantly illustrating 12% on mutual funds, but that's neither here nor there.
No. Last story we can get into a little bit. How did your last salary negotiation go? Probably not as well as it did for United Airlines pilots. They their union agreed to a preliminary labor deal that includes pay increases of as much as 40.2% over 4 years, ending months of tense negotiations and airport pickets. The preliminary deal with the Airline Pilots Association announced Saturday comes months after Delta pilots ratified a new contract that included 34% raises over 4 years, and the first of the top 4 airlines to reach a new agreement. American Airlines and its pilots union reached a new labor deal with 40% raises over 4 years ago, though it still faces a ramification vote by members. So if they sign this contract, essentially they're going to get 13 to 19% pay bump immediately, and it'll end up being a 40% over 4 years.
Isn't that the nature of having a highly specialized in-demand skill?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because sometimes other strikes that happen, it's just like, there's a labor force in size that damages the people they're negotiating with, but the labor itself isn't so specialized that it can't be replaced. That's why pilot strikes are so massive and impactful. Maybe look at me talking about unionized labor. Anyway, sending good vibes, because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner, and this is the Pete the Planner Show. So I'm guessing I'm going to get more letters about that. We never talk about union stuff on this show, which is fun.
I've mentioned it in the news before about like Starbucks attempt to unionize and stuff like that.
True.
We've never spent any significant time on it though.
All right, we're gonna play a little game here. How much is my air conditioning fix going to cost? Now, here's what you can do. You can say, well, I may need a new unit. They may be able to repair the unit. You're going to have to figure that out.
I got to tell you, after your success with the refrigerator repair, I'm kind of surprised you didn't go to YouTube.
Here's the other thing. It was like I used to install air conditioners for like in college, but I didn't repair them. Which is a very different thing.
How old is it?
That's the worst part.
It's old.
14 years. Wait, maybe older. When was 2007? Wait, when was that? What is that? 17 years? No, 16 years.
Ooh.
We math.
Wait a second. Okay. 7.
Isn't it 16?
Yeah, it's going to be 16 years this October.
It's fun.
It's not good news, Pete.
How am I so into time, yet anytime I look backwards with time, isn't that weird? You guys know me. I'm a time machine. Forward, backwards, I got nothing.
I'm the same way, because I'll start a story and say, well, the other day, and then if I stop and think about what I just said, I'm like, that was not the other day.
I'm so glad this letter did not have anthrax in it. You know what I mean? That would have totally ruined my week.
No, it would have. Well, yeah, because the person who opened it would have got sick, and you would have had all sorts of issues to deal with.
Can you imagine all the paperwork I'd have to do if I had someone open a letter for me that had anthrax in it because I thought it had anthrax in it?
The entire building would have been shut down, and you'd be at home in a non-air conditioned house.
So when I used to coach my daughter's soccer team, occasionally a girl would like kick a ball out in the street, and I'd be like, hey, look both ways. I don't want you to get hit and killed. That seems like a lot of paperwork. And they didn't understand the humor. And like, they're like, you'd have to do a lot of paper. I'm like, no, it's a funny, it's a good joke. Dame, I was sort of feeling creative this morning. I was writing a column, and so occasionally I'll have non-financial creative thoughts that come from that. So I actually wrote a new stand-up joke this morning, but I can't share it on the air.
Thanks for sharing then.
Because I haven't figured out how to make it not wildly inappropriate. It is inappropriate, but when I do comedy, I don't like to actually say the things. I just like to make people think terrible things, but I don't actually want to say them. So I've not figured out that part of the joke. But when I do, I'm going to have you sign a form, and then I'm going to tell you the joke.
Fair enough. I think I figured out a way that you can save some money on your air conditioner.
Okay.
Just ask the guy if you can help install it. They love it when people do that.
Or stand over him with a flashlight that I keep in my pocket.
Yeah.
Your
What do you think,
iPhone
Kristen?
flashlight.
What do you
Ask
think it's going
him.
to cost, Kristen?
I don't have any bearing on how much a new air conditioner costs or how big your house is. I have no idea.
Let's not go to the how big your house is thing.
Well,
this
no,
just
but the
seems like
size of the
another-
unit. No, the size of the unit matters. Like I live in a condo. I can't imagine that my AC unit is the same as either of the two of yours.
Do you have two? I mean, because sometimes people have. Okay.
What do you think, Dave?
Oh man, $6,200.
Oh, that's just cruel. What is wrong with you?
I actually thought that was low.
Oh,
Labor's expensive. I don't.
You guys, I'm mentally prepared for $2,500.
You're not prepared at all.
Oh,
Not even close.
my column this week, which maybe we'll talk about on the show next week, that I wrote this morning, and it sort of goes into this car thing a little bit. I'm literally bleeding money right now.
I was just about to say, I think you may want to repurpose that money you're getting for the car to the air conditioner. You may not be able to afford that car.
Well, that's what the emergency fund's for. But I will say, like, we all have seasons of life in which you just find yourself bleeding money. Dude, I think about this. I think about that my daughter will be driving here in a couple years, and then the car insurance. Like I am in a ugly season right now. No one feels sorry for me, and I'm not asking anyone, but I still have to like mitigate these challenges. I need to find a better job. That's what I need to do.
Could you just like store the car that you can't use right now for your daughter for a few years?
No,
I mean, that's
what she's asking, but no,
it's still the car, one of the two cars that you had when we met, right?
Yeah, dude.
Does it have over 200,000 miles on it now?
I don't know. No one knows. It's impossible to answer.
That's
how am I possibly supposed to know that?
How would you know that?
That's why the two of you can't go car shopping. Pete doesn't know how many miles are on his car.
Dave, I sent it through the Slack. I've been obsessed with these YouTube videos of this expert car salesman showing car salesmen how to sell cars. I can't stop watching them. I watched like 3 last night. I can't stop.
Are you going to go in and run the Foursquare for the guy?
Oh my gosh. It is so intense. And it'll just like, and he'll do his like sales, blah, 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 and then he'll stick out his hand. Like, and it just like in the middle of it, I'm like, a surprise handshake. Okay, well, I'll buy right now. It's all very silly. But of course, like, here's the thing. Whatever.
Just try and do it online. It's no muss, no fuss that way. Just send emails out.
That's what I used to do. Remember Jeff, the car guy, used to be on the show years ago?
Yeah.
In a car dealership in Muncie, and he was a buddy of mine. And I would just say, hey, man, can you just find this whenever? And then he would, and he'd have like one of his people just drive it down my house. I would just hand them a check, and it was over. It was like the greatest hookup of all time. And I missed that.
I am really surprised you don't have a car guy. Do you know how many car guys you could have right now if you just say, like, I'm looking for a car guy?
Hey, okay. No, I don't like using my platform for stuff like that. Like, I feels dirty.
I maybe we should talk offline. I might have a solution for you.
Really?
I might.
Okay. Well, I welcome a car guy. Okay.
How do you feel about a 2003 Silverado?
Hey, I can get you one of those as well.
Oh man.
Can you drive a manual?
I think ultimately this is what keeps us all connected. And it was sort of my point of my column this morning is like everyone's financial life is relative to themselves. So if you're having a challenge or a cash flow crunch or conundrum, it's what connects us is that feeling of trying to figure out what to do. And very few people don't have to do that. And I think the idea of, oh, it's a nice problem to have, whatever, it's still a problem for me. And it's occupying a lot of brain space and decision making. So I think ultimately that's what keeps most of the 99% aligned with each other. You know what I mean? All us real estate millionaires. What's up? No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Okay. Well, I'm gonna leave. This is a long show. Jeez, I feel like we should have announced someone's death at least. I mean, it's for this long. What if people gotta? Oh, I do have a death announcement. Now that I think about it, so every year there's rabbits in our yard. I don't know if you know how rabbits make other rabbits, but there are pictures online, Kristen. And every year we just name the rabbit that we see Jeff. So there's always Jeff. Well, I got a very chaotic text earlier in the week from my daughter saying Jeff was found in the road. And so rip Jeff. I think it's Jeff 4.0. But then again, every rabbit in our neighborhood is called Jeff. So pouring one out for you, Jeff. May you hop into the heavens. Stay getting money.